Okay, it is the top of the hour, just changed over. So I am going to just do a brief introduction to our special guest today. His name is Jamil Thobani. He's a rock star real estate agent based here in Calgary, Canada. I've had the pleasure of dealing with Jamil for the last couple of years, and this guy is a powerhouse and really knows his stuff. And now he's really kind of coaching and training other agents as well. And he's a smart guy. Today we're going to be talking about your database and the importance of the database in not only longevity of your business. And I've got so many great stories. I mean, Simone and I sold real estate at a very high level for a number of years. And our database was something that we were latched onto at the very, very beginning. Fortunately, we didn't really know, but our coach said, hey, you really have to establish your database. You have to have that very well organized, lots of notes, and you have to be able to communicate with your past clients and your sphere of influence in order to grow your business. And we didn't know any different. We just followed our coach's advice, which you should do as a good coachable student. And of course we thrived, and in our peak years sold 126, well over 100 homes, 1.4 plus million of commissions annually, and did tremendously well. And what I can say that we would certainly echo a lot of other top producers in that your first 3 to 5 years is kind of this grind and the hustle and going for it, right? And then after that, if you build and maintain your database properly, you can practically coast if you want to. I mean, yes, you can still continue to do cold calling and door knocking and all these activities, but if you want to, you could practically live off of your database. And one of the rules that my coach always provided us was the 10% rule with your database. If you manage and maintain and nurture that database that you have, you should be able to get 10% of the people in that database transacting with you every single year, directly or indirectly. So it could be a referral from a past client. It could be a sphere of influence who directly buys or sells. But if you have 300 people in your database, you should be able to get 30 transactions every single year. So then what would happen if you had 400 people in your database? You have 40 deals a year. And what happens if you want to get 50 deals a year? How many people do you need to put in your database? I mean, it's like not rocket science, is it? So if you want to be a 50 deal a year producer, simply build up a database of 500 people that you know and that they know you, and maintain and manage that database. So Jamil is going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to be here to support. And you guys listen to this. This will make you a tremendous amount of money. So Jamil, please take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pablo. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate being on this platform. The kind words you gave, Pablo, are amazing. And you yourself are a great friend to me and mentor. And it's always wonderful to have you around and supporting in anything that I'm doing. So I just want to start off talking to everyone about know, like, and trust. Okay. So anything that I say here, I'm going to hope is not considered rocket science. Everything we should be doing is as simple as possible moving forward. So if you're spending more time trying to dive in and think through new things, I want you to step back and surround yourselves with some people and ask people around you for some help and see what they've done in their business, because more than likely they've done something or something similar, and it should help you scale up. And so where does that come into play with your database? Okay, so the whole idea behind creating a database is twofold. When it comes to the know, like, and trust, it's starting to build out what I call a word of mouth marketing team for you. So if you are in front of people on a consistent basis in multiple ways, every time you make a touch with them, you're actually buying space in their head, you as the real estate expert, for about 18 days. Okay. If you've done a good enough job of just reminding them that you are in real estate, for the next 18 days, you are now the go-to person for them. Okay. And What this does for you is it starts to help reduce your cost for reach. And anytime something comes up where they're in a scenario and they hear that someone wants to buy a home or sell a home or has anything related to, I need help with something related to real estate, you're going to come top of mind and they're going to connect you with that person. Of course, you do have to train them, and we can talk a little bit about that, how that connection happens. But the most important thing is that you're in front of them, okay? The second thing it does is that when they're ready to buy, if you've done a sufficient enough job of providing them with value, you're going to be their go-to person, okay? So how do you do this? And what I'm gonna tell you isn't something I've created. This is something that I came across. It's called the 8x8 and 33 touch point system, okay? And so I'm not going to share any slides. My expectation is that you have a paper and pen in front of you. And if you don't have a paper and pen in front of you, you're going to start madly typing some stuff out, okay? And Pablo, I imagine there might be a recording. If it is available, please share it with them. But the idea behind this is that anytime you meet somebody new in your network, or if they're already in your network and you want to engage them, okay, what you will do is you will put them onto an 8x8 campaign. Now I'll give you a little background as to how this works. There was a study done, and I don't have what the study's name is, but just go along with me here. There was a group of individuals who decided to see how they could figure out who is the most top performing real estate agent or perceived top performing real estate agent in a specific neighborhood. So what they did is they went out and did a survey, and they took a statistical sample of households and said, I've got these 4 or 5 real estate agents, Bob, Sue, Jill, Pat, etc. Who do you consider to be the neighborhood expert? Now, the names that were on this list were all real estate agents that had done a deal in that neighborhood in the past year. And the outcome of that was Bob is the #1 agent in this neighborhood. So then over the next 8 weeks, what this group did was they sent out a mailer to the community. One mailer every week, once a week for 8 weeks. After the 8th week, they went and did another survey and again took the statistical sample. And on that mailer, they actually slid in Joe Smith, not a real estate agent, some fictitious person. And they just kept out pumping out Joe Smith's content for 8 weeks. And then when they did the survey, what the results showed was that Joe Smith was actually the neighborhood expert. Joe Smith had never sold a home in the neighborhood. Joe Smith was not a real estate agent. They were just somebody that was made up. But what had happened was because they had those touch points that they had sent out for those 8 weeks, they had bought time and space in those homeowners' minds saying, yes, this person has to be a top performing real estate agent in our neighborhood. Okay. So what we want to do is take that concept and pull it out because, if this offends you, it offends you, but farming a neighborhood is probably is effective, but there's more effective ways now of doing things because of the reach that we have with social media. And so I would say it's almost dying, but that's my opinion. And I'm sure others will argue with that. Okay. But what you can do is now farm your database because more than likely, Pablo and I were both in Calgary. I can guarantee you there's one person that's on his database that's also on my database. And now what we're doing is we're now competing in a scalable way to get in front of them using more technology advanced approaches. Okay. And now I'm not saying you got to go and do a bunch of social media posts and you have to go and have a bunch of, newsletters and this and that. There are components of that. But the concept here is what are you doing that's going to be different from the person sitting next to you where you're going to be making more of those touch points. So what happens in that what we call 8x8 is you'll have 8 mailers or 8 touch points that you do for 8 weeks. So anytime you're bringing somebody into your database or you want to re-engage them, you want to have that 8-point touch system. 4 of those have to include either face-to-face or a phone call. So it's very simple. And you basically do that every other week. And what you need to do is plug in something in the remaining 4 weeks, so the alternating weeks. So that could be something as simple as, hey, when we met, you told me that you were thinking about building out a garage. Well, here's a way for you to plan that out and give them the 4 or 5 steps. So it does require a little bit of work, but I'm sure that you'll be able to have kind of a general template of things that you could easily pass on to people. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to find things of value. Okay. And I want to stress the importance of this. When it comes to value, what we're doing today is giving value, even more value. And once you're done that, puke more value. And that's how you're going to start building that know, like, and trust. Does that make sense? And so what you want to do from that 8x8 campaign is really start re-engaging individuals. And what the outcome from that is they'll go, oh, wow, you know, like Jamil is just, he's my new friend, or we've become friends again. And the concept behind this is that you're just reestablishing that relationship, and it creates that knowing. The value you give is the trusting, and then they'll start sharing you within their network. Okay. From there, what you want to do is now looking at the 33 touch points. And this is where we need to really focus in on something that is at a more scalable level, something that is high touch but low effort on your part. Okay. And this is where you start taking advantage of technology. So the easiest thing that you can start off with is having a monthly newsletter. Okay. So monthly newsletters, that's 12 newsletters. So 33 minus 12 leaves you with 21 more touch points. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and create a newsletter every month. What I'd encourage you to do is now leverage. Okay. And I want to take a step back here, and I want you to think about this and figure this out. Because I had an agent the other day. He did his first deal. Okay. Now, he is also a brand new agent. So we were sitting down, we were talking, and as a brand new agent, sometimes they're not fully committed to the industry. Sometimes they're working part-time to hopefully, you know, ramp up their production, and then they can make the full leap of faith into real estate. And so he's got another company that he runs, and it probably pays him $20 an hour, $25 an hour. But you know what? It's good, consistent work, pays some of the bills. Goes and does his first deal, and I said, okay, I want you to think about all the activities you did. What got you from starting point to end point? How much time did you put in? And what would you say you made dollar per hour on that? So we did the calculation, and it came out to about $350 an hour. Okay. So you can look at it from 2 different perspectives. You can either go and work at a job, which is just over broke. I didn't make that up. I stole it from someone else. Or you can go and run your own business and start looking at yourself as, what am I earning on an hourly basis? And this is where you start running your real estate database and increase your dollar per hour throughput. So if you have a database, and your database, if you don't have one today, can start off as simple as your cell phone and who's in there, get them down into an Excel sheet, or if you've got a CRM, put them into a CRM. Okay. And I want you to look at it from this perspective. As you're putting this database together, you are putting an activity, or you're doing an activity, and you need to decide, is this what we call a low income producing activity or a high income producing activity? And I can tell you, with the scenario of this first time agent who did his first deal, his income was on activities that where it was greatest was where he required a license. That was when he was showing the property. That was when he was negotiating the property. That was when he was closing the property for this individual. Okay. So I know that we all don't have ample budget, but you need to start looking at it from a business perspective. And you go, how do I build out this database and leverage someone who I might be able to pay $10, $12, $15 an hour to ramp up my database, okay? And then I can go and do these other activities. Well, the touch points in your database in general don't require a license to support. So what you can do is, when it comes to creating the newsletter, you shouldn't be the one creating that newsletter. Please don't do it. Okay, unless you have like a wonderful skill set in design and you can throw something together in 20 minutes and you can hammer out some copy that just describes what's happening in the market, and it's going to take you no more than 20 to 25 minutes on a monthly basis. Don't do it, guys. Okay, go on a fiverr.com. There's a guy there right now. He'll send you pre-made newsletters, 12 pre-made newsletters for like $150. Okay, and just go in and plug those in and send them out. If you want to get it a little bit more tailored, I am sure there are companies that are local to wherever you are. If you're in Calgary, I can give you a name. Okay, literally, it's like 30 or 40 bucks a month, and they'll send them out for you. Why is that important? Because you can now free up your time to go and do other things, and you're touching your database. Okay, if you want something that's a little bit more free, a very simple thing, and Pablo, you can speak to the impact that this has had when you guys were in production. Like, simply put your clients who own homes onto a weekly update of where the market's at. Okay, here's the homes that sold in your neighborhood. And every Friday at 4 o'clock or whatever time your MLS system sends that out, they'll be looking forward to it. Now, will they look at it every single time? You tell me how many of you look at every single email that comes in, because I can tell you I don't, right? But when it comes in, I can see who it's from. And that person has just bought some space in my head for the next 18 days. Okay, so what you'll do in your 33 touch point, you got your first 12 is a newsletter. Within there, the remaining 21 items, all you have to do is plug in certain touch points. So the easiest is this: 4 of them can easily be a quarterly phone call to them. Okay, and the system I was taught is a Ford conversation. Talk about family, occupation, recreation, and their dreams. You're just trying to figure out what their goals, their aspirations are, and find a way to help support them. Okay, so if you take 21 minus 4, what does that leave you with? Like 17. Okay, from the 17, they have a birthday, so that gives you, now you're down to 16. If they're married, they have an anniversary, you're down to 15. If they purchased a home through you, you can do your annual anniversary touch point. So now you're down to 14. As you can see, all you're doing is just putting in little slots into this 33 touch point. And the easiest thing for you to do is set aside some time during, I don't know, a Saturday morning when you're not busy. Put on your work attire, flip open a technology like BombBomb, and literally all you're doing is recording every single day. Hey, Pablo, it's your birthday today. I'm so happy that we've been able to be such great friends. I wish you the best day, and I hope it's prosperous, and I hope you have a great year, whatever it is. Okay, and pound those out. Do 10, 12, 14 if you have to, and then you just go into BombBomb and you just plug it in, and you just or get your assistant to just plug it in if you have an assistant, right? And all it does is it gets scheduled. All right. One of the features that I love, and I don't know if you can do this on iPhones, but on my Android, in my text message system, if I did a follow-up with someone and they said, hey, can you actually reach out to me in a month? I'll go into my text message and I can pre-schedule the message for a month from now. And then just do a, hey, you told me to check in with you. What's a good time to give you a call today? Right? And so all you're doing is you're leveraging technology at that point in time, and you're just putting a check mark beside your 33 touch point. Did I touch that person? Did I touch that person? Did I touch that person? Fair enough? So I think the biggest thing is for you guys to really sit down. If you're struggling with how do you make sure you have the right touch points, I want you to go like this. A touch point is better than no touch point. So plug something in. If you have no reason to call the person, just touch base with them and say, hey, I just called to check in with you. Want to make sure that everything's good. How's the family doing? How's work going? Do you guys have any plans during the summer? You know, if you could wave a magic wand, what would life look like a year from now? Those were 4 questions: family, occupation, recreation, and dream. And that's all you're doing. You're doing touch point. And in there, I can guarantee you, they're going to ask you how the market is. And what's the rule? Like, we all know this, right? Anytime you have a conversation with anyone, you have to be prepared for that conversation. And so you need to have your controlled conversation or script to use to help answer that question. Pablo, why don't you just quickly touch on what was the impact in your business? And I know that you've coached some people when they actually touch their database. What's something that you've seen, or what's a good story that came out of that?
Yeah, well, I relayed this one story to you yesterday when we were talking about doing this, and it's amazing how, like I said at the beginning, we started doing our database from the very beginning. And just to give people a little bit of background onto the technical side, because I know a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, well, so, you know, like Jamil said, you know, using your phone, or do you use Outlook, or do you use a program like Top Producer or anything like that? And, you know, we started with Top Producer. It was recommended to us. It's a real estate based CRM program, and it's called Top Producer. And it's got all those little reminders that pop up, and you can flag things for follow up. And it was great. You know, we ended up switching later on to Mojo because it had a dialer system built in, because our database grew so large. And as Jamil said, our coach did the same thing, like call your database 4 times a year. So we'd pick up the phone, and, you know, at first it was like, okay, bring up under the A's, Andrew, and you'd pick up the phone. Hi, Andrew, it's Pablo. You know, you'd dial it, or maybe you'd wait for it to ring, et cetera. And that became very tedious when you get 600-700 people in your database. So we got into like a power dialer system, and it was so great because it had canned voicemails. You can leave a voicemail that just says, hey, sorry, I missed you today. It's Pablo, your real estate agent. Just called today with some great value for you. Give me a call if you have any questions. Look forward to talking to you. Just something energetic like that. And then it would just drop these voicemails on people, right? Which is great. No waiting for that phone to dial through. Yeah. So what we were talking about yesterday is I started working with some real estate agents that were like, they're tremendously successful, top producing agents. And they've been selling homes at a very high level, I'd say, for 5 or 6 years. And in that 5 or 6 years, they've never created a database. And this may be familiar to some of you who are out there kind of going, yeah, I don't really have a formal, like I kind of have some people somewhere in, you know, a list somewhere of people that I used to, I sold their house once, right? But they didn't have a formal database at all. It wasn't created. It wasn't organized. And so for years, they've just been, you know, buy leads, prospect, look for new business, sell a ton of homes, doing great. What could be wrong, right? And then they started to notice that a home would pop up and you're like, 123 Home Street. Hey, I recognize that address. Wait a second. I sold that house. And then you're going, well, wait a second. What are they doing listing with that agent? Why aren't they calling me? Oh, because I haven't called them, maybe, right? And it hurts. It stings if you've ever had that situation where somebody lists their home without you and you help them buy the home and you're like, what are you doing, man? Right? Where we had the opposite situation in our business where we nurtured our database from day one. We called them religiously 4 times a year. We sent them out a mailer. Like, you know, you were saying, we sent them something in the mail. For us, it was once a quarter. And we constantly made sure that we maintain that database. And I would say in our entire career of like 11 years of selling real estate, there was maybe 3 times that I can remember where a client used somebody else. And out of those 3, I bet one of them didn't end up selling and we ended up working with them again, right? Like it was rare. And I remember calling up one of my clients. I was just like, dude, what are you doing? What, like, What? You know, we've been working together. I'm your realtor, not that person. What's going on? And he's like, oh, I know. I just, what ended up happening is he bought a home. He ended up having a lot of problems with the home. He felt embarrassed about it. He didn't really want to talk to me about it. He felt like he bought a dud and he didn't want to bother me with selling it. So he chose another agent. And I was like, well, lesson learned, right? You got to really talk to people. So in working with this couple who was selling real estate, and they were every year finding new business. And that is an endless cycle. If you don't have a database, every year you got to be prospecting, finding new deals, finding new business, right? And I said, you guys, we got to work on your database. Like, this is number one priority. And it's hard. I get it. You're sitting there kind of going like, I'm busy. I got 4 showings today. I got a pending I got to deal with. I've got a closing coming up. When am I ever going to fit this in? You got to fit it in. Trust me, this is going to be what's going to take your business to that next level for the long term. And I said, well, let's set aside some time every day. Let's work on the database. Let's get it transferred over. They did hire a VA to manage, go through all our previous deals. I want to get all the information, the addresses, the phone numbers, everything, put it into this database. I want to create those searches or a market report or something that we can send out to the people. Yes, we want to get an automated, I remember we used like Avenue as a service where they would just create it and send it for you and send you a metric every month of who opened it, right? So they created that. They are doubling their business this year. Yes, the market's a little stronger, but they are doubling. And the great news is, as they continue forward, they're not going to need to look for new business anymore. They're going to rely on this database, and it'll propel them. You always hear these. You talk to any agent that's been doing this for 20 years, right? What do they tell you? Same thing. I don't prospect. Right? All my business is repeat and referral. And you're like, well, isn't that great for you? I still have to survive, right? I got to go out and hustle. I got to still pull in new clients. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't prospect anymore. I don't phone. I don't do anything. I have repeat and referral clients. And the way to keep those repeat and referral is build that database.
That's right. And so here's kind of the biggest things that came out of that. Okay. So, we talked right off the bat, know, like, and trust. I want you to think about this. How much effort does it take for you to build a trusted relationship with someone? Okay. And so, yeah, I kind of just gave you the 8x8 and 33 system approach there, right? It does seem a little bit overwhelming, but I'm telling you, once you have it down pat, it goes pretty good and pretty easy. But I did my MBA back in 2014, so a few years ago. And one of the biggest takeaways from the marketing course was it's easier to sell to someone you've already sold to before than to go out there and find someone else. And I can imagine, Pablo, in this scenario of this powerhouse that you were talking to that wasn't touching their database, I can guarantee you that they doubled their business and put in half, maybe even a quarter of the amount of effort they'd normally put in to go and attract new business. And my guess is the quarter of the effort was more related to the fact that they had to get the system going. But once the system's going, it's just churning for you, right? And what does that do? That increases your dollar per hour, right? And that's what we have to focus in on, folks, is that everything we do here is dollar per hour. If you have that mentality and you focus on saying, I'm here to increase my output from that perspective, you're going to start finding ways to make your business even more efficient. So I'll give you, there's 2 things that I want to share with you. The first one is, when it comes to those online leads, okay, hey, I've had them come in, okay, I dread picking up this damn thing to give one of them a call. They don't know who I am. Do I really want to go and give them a call and they're going to say no to me? Fine, I got to switch my mindset on that, okay? But if you have someone who's in your database who already knows you and likes you, you're going to call them 4 times a year, okay? You tell me, is it easier to call someone, okay, to make 4 phone calls of someone who knows, likes, and trusts you versus 4 random people? Which one would you rather want to go with? I think you'd want to go with this. So have that mindset of this person already likes me. Well, I'm just giving them a call and yeah, we're going to talk business. And there are effective ways of having those conversations. And I'm sure that Pablo can share some scripts with you, or controlled conversations, as I call them, and go from there. The second thing that I want to talk to you about is a very, very high touch thing. Many of you may have heard of this before. Probably some of you have implemented. Some still do it, and probably some have let it drop off, is a physical mailer to your client. Okay. Now, there are agents who live off of this where they send a newsletter on a monthly basis that's physical. Okay. Instead of an email, because like I said, I don't check every email that comes in. But there's other things that you can send. Yeah, we talked about birthday cards, right? But when was the last time you got a, hey, I was thinking about you card in the mail? Or, hey, thank you for doing this for me. Okay. So one of the very first things that I do after I meet somebody new is I will get their address and I will send them a physical card and say, hey, it was great having a coffee with you. Now, I know in COVID you can't have coffees, but you know what? If you jump onto a Zoom conversation with someone and just say, hey, you know what? I'd love to be able to send you some market info just to keep you aware of. Tell me, what's your address? Set them up on the marketing campaign to get them their weekly or monthly update as to what's happening in their marketplace. Put them into your newsletter, take their address and send them a card and just say, hey, it was great catching up with you on Zoom the other day, or great meeting you on Zoom the other day, and drop in a couple of business cards, right? And that's just another touch point, because they're, when they go to the mailbox, there's two things they normally get. At least this is what I get when I go and check my mail. The first thing I get is a bunch of advertisements and stuff that goes into the recycle, and the second is a bunch of bills, right? And so isn't it nice to have something that's just the personal touch point? So what you're doing is you're just standing out from that perspective. It's gonna, for me, it costs $1 to send each of those out, but that's $1 well spent. When it comes to holidays, you can send out holiday cards. One of the cool things that I do is, and it's past now, but plug this in for yourself next year. You got to do a little bit of planning up front. I'll send out a scratch and win. I go to the convenience store. I'll buy like 100 scratch cards, and then for what's that day called when everyone wears green? It's slipping my mind right now.
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's Day. For St. Patrick's Day, like everyone will get a little scratch and win. Little things. That's $1, right? Like, what would it cost for you to take someone out for Starbucks? It'd be $3 or $4 for each of your coffees. So it's about $8 there, plus your time for being in front of them, right? Whereas this is, you can have your assistant or maybe your kid or somebody basically just put this together for you and send it out. And now you've had another high touch point with them. Okay. So the whole idea around this, guys, is to find different ways, and none of this is rocket science, right? It's all about how can I just do one more thing that gets in front of them that'll make it a lot more easier. And again, what comes out of that is buying space in their head. Okay. So what I'd like everyone to do is, if you haven't already, I just want you to take 2 minutes. Okay. So we're going to take a break here for a second. I want you to take 2 minutes, and I want you to write down 3 things that you could send out in like, as in outside of a newsletter, outside of making phone calls. Like, what are 3 things you could send? A Christmas card, something. Put that down, and then I want you to type it in the chat. And I want everyone to open up the chat, and then as they're pouring in, I want you to take screenshots of them. Because what this is going to do right now for you guys is going to generate like 30 or 40 different ideas that you can just go, okay, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. It's very easy, because I think we've got like 30 people on this call. So if everyone even just puts one thing in there, you're going to have, there'll be some duplication, but you'll have at least 10 to 12 things to fill out the remainder of the 15 items that you need to send. So I'll wait for those to come through. New Year calendar. Yeah, Harminder, that's perfect. And I'll have your face all over it. Yep, Doug, monthly newsletter, weekly email blast, scratchers for Chinese New Year's. That's amazing. Yep, or signing paddies. Yep, handwritten Christmas cards, birthday cards. Yep. Home possession anniversary, Rob. I love that one. Yes. Once fall comes around, you can send something out and said, "Hope you have a great summer." Yep. So Sherry, hopefully I pronounced your name right. Let's take it one step forward. Okay. So now summer's over, fall is starting. What's your 5 home maintenance tips to get yourself prepared to winterize your home? Right now, how many people will really find that of value? Some will, some won't. But what if you connected them with a handyman who would come out and say clean out their gutters or do something to help prepare or do like a site inspection for them? Say here's 5 to 7 things you can do, but hey, guess what? Or here's a checklist. In the checklist you just have to Google it. But say here's a handyman. Now you have a handyman who you're sending work to, who by the way probably goes into a bunch of homes, who can now say, oh, you're thinking about renovating your home. Why don't we do a pre-assessment and a post-assessment? My real estate agent will help you. These are things you can start doing, right?
And guess what? I bet your handyman will pay for it.
100%.
Right. So what a
100%.
great way to have it paid for. You get a touch point and your handyman's, you just say, look, I want to put out a mailer to my entire database. It'll be $1,200. You want to pay for it? I'll put your name on there and refer you.
100%. So I see Angela, drop off packages of Cadbury Easter eggs. So there are people who build their business off of pop buys. Okay, and what they do is they have their database and they go, these are my uh, um, A people. They're the ones that support me the most, and they'll go and actually do pop buys and drop something off. Like one year, I dropped off. I went over to a liquidation store, and they were selling those key lock antifreeze bottles. You just squirt it in when your key freezes, and it takes it out. We're in Canada, so that's what happens apparently to a lot of our cars. And literally, I just took that, dropped in my business card, and handed it off to a bunch of people, and they loved it. Okay. Birthday cards, yes. So baby or a graduation or something. Here's a little tip, guys. If you go into Facebook, for those of you who use Facebook, you can project out a month and see who's going to have an upcoming birthday. So we have this thing called FinTrack where we have to collect someone's personal ID and go everything, and we'll have their birthday. We'll put that into our system. Well, that's somebody who we've transacted with, but someone who's in your network that hasn't bought from you or sold from you yet, you can go onto Facebook up front, see when their birthday is, and then you can pre-schedule it in your phone. You can put it into your database to give them a call that day. If you have their address, you can send a card. And this is what I do. I send the card and I call them on their birthday. And they love it. They're like, holy shit, like you didn't need to do that. I have a guy out in Vancouver that he sent me 3 deals just because I've stayed in touch with him. Right? Home anniversary date. Yeah. Long weekend wishes, home maintenance planning, furnace tips, pocket size hand sanitizers. Yep. Recent closings, you can get their statements and buyers to help them with tax prep courses. 100%. Yeah, anything related to any cultural or religious festivals, monthly newsletters, congratulation cards. Guys, just sit there and take pictures of this. This is going to fill up the rest of it. If you're going to send a $25 gift card whenever they refer us, here's how my system works. The fact that they mention me, they get a $20 gift card. Okay. Someone says, hey, Pablo told me to speak with you because you're a great real estate agent. Wonderful. Pablo, check your inbox. I just sent you a Starbucks gift card. Okay. Then when I meet with the person, I'll say, hey, Pablo, I met with them. When I close, I'll say, hey, Pablo, here's a little gift. And all I'm doing is, whatever, here's $300. Pablo is going to remember that and he's going to start sending me more deals. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. You should start building out your 8x8. So the easy thing on your 8x8s, 4 of them are a phone call. Okay. The remaining 4 are just what's something of value. And here's a little trick. You can use one of them to set up another appointment with them to just do another catch up. Because usually if you look at it, if it's 8 touch points, 1 per week, that's 8 weeks. So one of them you can easily schedule in to have another face-to-face coffee or even another conversation later on. Okay. And then with your 33 touch points, very, very simple, 12 newsletters. You've got birthday, anniversary, home purchase anniversary. You can do a Christmas card or any other type of holiday or event. And next thing you know, you're down to 12, and you can pick out some stuff from here. If you want to do a pop by monthly, there you go. Okay. Pablo?
Yeah, I want to bring up what David put on there, or sorry, Douglas put on there, and you mentioned it as well about it's part of servicing your database is you're really looking for repeat business and referrals. So this whole time you're asking, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell? And we did the same thing, $25 gift card. If you just, hey, one of your clients says, well, you should talk to my friend Jim, and they give you Jim's phone number. I mean, like, perfect. And yeah, I have my assistant do it, and she would just set it up and send a $25 gift card. And I found Starbucks and Amazon are two really good ones to send out. Now, I don't send anything else. Like if I do a deal with them, I don't send a referral. That's just me, but I don't send any other money or anything like that. I just thank them for even just thinking of me. And that was a big thing that really kind of helped us a lot. The other thing that I was thinking about you were talking about the income producing versus I call it income servicing and maximizing your time. And one of the questions in there was about VAs and how do you find a VA? Where do you get a VA? I'll put in my 2 cents on that because we've been spending a lot of time on this in the last week or two. And I think we found something pretty neat. So number one, there's kind of the two of the main sources that I know of are Indeed and Fiverr. So Fiverr is a website, primarily it's like contract or project based. So if you need somebody to temporarily take your names out of your phone and convert it into a database and make the numbers work and everything, you can hire somebody on Fiverr. They're kind of temp people and they'll do a project for you, whatever or I need a mailer done or something like that. Indeed, I find is a little bit more, you're hiring somebody. So you can find somebody at $5, $6, $8, $9, $10 an hour, and they will work for you for a certain period of time every week or however many hours you want, right? Some of the challenges that we found is there's a time zone difference, of course. A lot of these people are in either India, Philippines, et cetera, and you're working 12-hour apart. So you get a touch base in the evening and one in the morning usually, and that's about it. There's sometimes language barriers, sometimes consistency barriers and training issues. Simone and I have been doing a lot of research into this, and we got a referral to this company called Cyberbacker. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Cyberbacker, but I highly encourage you to look into this. Simone is raving about it right now. And you can hire a part-time or full-time VA through Cyberbacker. The cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,000 to $1,500 per month for a full-time assistant. And of course, less than that if it's half-time or part-time assistant. But here's the great part. They train the VA on whatever you want them to be trained on. So they do the training and the HR portion of it. It is like a cult and they're mostly based out of the Philippines and whatnot, but it's like you have to apply and become a cyberbacker, and it's a prestigious thing to become one of the cyberbackers, and they take care of these people really well. They've got it's a American company that kind of created this for them. They also, they work your hours. So whatever your time zone is, those are the hours that they work. So they're there for you live kind of throughout your shift or your time of working. And they're highly skilled, highly trained, highly maintained. If you end up using them, they do have a referral thing. So I will kind of leverage that a little bit. Simone Russo. So you guys know Simone. Simone Russo is my wife and partner. If it says who referred you, just kind of put Simone Russo. That'd be great. And that helps us and helps you. But yeah, Cyberbacker is really good.
Great. So I have a little Excel sheet. Now remember, I said that this is not rocket science, guys. So I have a Excel sheet that I can send out to you guys if you'd like. Pablo, how can they get in touch with you to get this? Because I'll send it over to you, and the Excel sheet will basically have kind of here's what you do with your 8x8, and here's examples of 33s. You can probably snag some stuff that people have popped into the chat to fill in the remainder of what I have. Take what I have, build your business, guys. We're all in this together. This isn't anyone doing anything on their own, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll put this on the Agent Upgrade Facebook page, and then we can also put it on. What's your Facebook page? You might as well talk about that as well while we're here.
Sure. So I did launch a Facebook community last month. The intention of this is, if you're okay, can I just share my story a little, Pablo?
Yep.
So I always say I'm not the most typical real estate agent. I don't think any of us are typical. That we woke up one morning, like when we were 4 or 5, and said, I'm going to be a real estate agent when I grow up. We all kind of end up in this business through other careers for the most part. And when I came into real estate, my background is actually in management consulting. I've worked with a lot of large oil and gas companies and helped them with business strategy and implementation of certain projects. And when I came into real estate, I realized that it's all on me, and I really have to figure this out myself. And I started just implementing general business practices that I have. And there have been times that I've found myself working 16, 18, 20 hours a day, because that happens. And what I had to do is pull myself out and really start systemizing my business and leveraging where I can, to the point where I am today, where I'm putting in 16, 18 hours a week. So, half days here, half days there, where I just do certain consistent activities and then have the right systems and support in place. So what I did is I launched this Facebook community with the intent to help agents understand that we are the CEOs of our business. Now, we may not all have formal training in business. I was lucky, I had that opportunity and get that extra education. But like I said a few minutes ago, we're all in this together, guys. And so I just have the expectation of myself that if I know something, that I should be able to share that with other people. It's part of one of my core values of contribution. And so this community is just a platform for all of us to come together. So if you'd like, come and join it. And it's just to be there to engage, collaborate, learn something, but help teach, right? We all have something that we can contribute. And so if you'd like to, you can Google it, or sorry, you can go, oh, there it is. There's a link. Thanks, Pablo. You guys can click on that and request to join it. And yeah, just jump in there and go from there.
Cool. So any questions about what we were talking about today? Any questions about database, about how to get your database sorted out? Anybody have any kind of stories or relate to the fact that they don't have a database and they're like, I need to get this done? Anybody have a very good database that they want to share?
Kevin says he needs to get this done. Step number 1, Kevin, easiest thing to do, grab everyone from your cell phone. Okay. Michelle, as you're doing this, all right. And it's funny because Pablo mentioned earlier, okay, what he was taught, and I've done the same thing. Start with the A's and the B's and the C's. You'll actually start seeing a trend that you don't have any clients that have a name starting with a T or an R or a V or a W, or you have like a front ended A, B, C, D, E, because when you starting right from the top of the alphabet and you do these activities, I'm telling you, you get so busy and you start servicing those clients that you never make it all the way down to Z. And you should try and get down to Z, but you'll see that it gets front loaded at the beginning of the alphabet. Angela uses the Buffini Referral Maker CRM, which is great. I've seen that. It's a great, very easy system to use for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, easiest way, any database should have an export import. So even your contacts, there should be a mass export. And I found it easiest to export your entire phone contact list, whatever, and then you put it into Excel and you label them either as a past client or sphere of influence, COI or SOI. And that way you know who you're talking to, maybe write some notes in there and then import it into a proper CRM program. Again, like a top producer or whatever you want to use, look at it. Here's the great thing. And I talked about this when we talked about database a few weeks ago, is there's lots of free databases. And usually your real estate board, I know for Calgary, we have Prospects, for example, which is a CRM. In fact, I think our MLS system has a CRM built into it, where you can enter your contacts and have notes. Outlook is a rudimentary CRM program, right? You can have your contacts and flag them for follow-ups and everything, right? So that's the first step, is export, put it into an Excel spreadsheet. You can import it, usually a CSV, and then you import all these names. And then you just kind of go like, who are these people? Do I know them? Is there anybody I need to delete from this? Do a little cleanup first. Oh, that's the furnace guy. I'm going to delete him. But wait, maybe I should keep him in there. Maybe I should call the furnace guy and go, hey, who sells your houses? Hey, you must see a lot of people that are changing their furnace because they're looking to sell. If you see anybody looking to sell, could you let me know? And by the way, when are you looking at moving? So why are you deleting people, right? So go through that whole list. And then as Jamil said, usually we start at the top, right? But I would take I'm a little old school sometimes, like to print things. So I would take our database once a quarter because we knew we had to call people. And trust me, I didn't like doing it either, right? It's like, oh, I got to call my database again. But this is the bread and butter. It's so great. So I'd print out the entire database with a little bit of room on the margins. And sometimes I would just start at Z so that we would actually get clients with a X and an R and everything in our, and we'd start at Z and work our Z for our American friends, and I'd work my way backwards. And for us, we followed the Mike Ferry prospecting stuff, right? So there was a little bit of everything, some door knocking, cold calling, lead follow-up, et cetera. So the best way for us to start our prospecting, because you would always dread getting on the phones and doing prospecting in the morning. It's like 8:30 in the morning. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to call for sale by owners, or I don't want to call expireds or whatever it is. Well, the very first 5 calls that you make is to your past clients and your database. And like Jamil said, those are the people that love you. Oh, Pablo, so good to hear from you. How are you guys doing? Oh my God. And you have this great little combo and you ask for a referral and try and get some business out of that. And then you're pumped up. You've had some great conversations. You got some yeses, and then you can slide right into the hard ones, right? So yeah. Great way to break the ice.
And if you don't want to call, and if you don't want to, Pablo, if you're having a hard time calling your 5 past clients, then call your mom. And trust me, my mom knows I'm in real estate. She was the first phone call everyone. Hey mom, just a reminder. I know, son, you're in real estate. And if you want to call your a sibling or a spouse or a kid or your best friend, get that first phone call out and then keep on going from there, right?
Yeah, Excel, the best CRM is the one that you use, as they say, right? So if it's Excel, just use Excel, but it's so great because you can export whatever you have, you can export it and import it right into whatever CRM program that you want to use. Some little like pointers or tips on CRMs that I've found in the past. Okay. A lot of them have the automatic follow-up notifications, right? So they'll say, you import like 150 names into this database and you say, okay, I'm going to start calling them all and I'll flag them for a follow-up in 2 weeks or whatever, right? So you flag them, and what happens in 2 weeks? You get like 150 notifications, bam, and you got to call 150 people, and it's overwhelming. And so what happens sometimes when we get overwhelmed, we shut down and we do nothing. So be careful about how you stagger these follow-ups. Don't overload the system. Don't just snooze everybody for a month. that's why for me, I turned off all those notifications and I said, look, I'm just going to call them 4 times a year and that's all I got to do. The rest is automated. And so my job every year, as far as maintaining this database, that was going to give me 30, 40, 50 deals a year. All I had to think about was picking up the phone 4 times a year. Hey, it's Pablo, your real estate agent. Just want to let you know I'm still in real estate. Any questions that any questions about today's market? That's the news of the week this week, right? Yeah, I heard it's on fire. Oh, great. Have you been thinking of selling your house? No, but my sister over in wherever is thinking about selling. Maybe you should talk to her. Absolutely. What's the best number to reach her at? I mean, it's like mining that database, right? It's great.
It's perfect. Yep. And never forget to tell people that you can support them in a different jurisdiction. So if they're like, oh, I'm going to be moving to XYZ city, great. Would you like me to connect you with someone who's going to be living, an agent that's over there, right? Mm-hmm. So there's always that opportunity too. I'm sure that there's at least one person who's wondering, how the heck do I get my contacts off my phone real quick and start exporting it into an Excel sheet? You can actually import all of your contacts from your cell phone into Google, and I think it's Google Contacts. And then from there, you can do a data dump into whether it's a Google Sheet or into an Excel file, and then easily bump it into whatever system you want to bump it into. So,
or just like everything else, just Google it. How do I get my contacts off my phone and into an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yep. Okay.
Jason asks here, what would you say is a reasonable monthly cost for a CRM? I think we paid around $25 a month usually for a CRM. It depends on what it does for you. If all it does is house your database, keep it there in the cloud, you can access it from your phone anywhere you are. I'd be at a home inspection, and I know I'm not allowed to influence the home inspection, but the realtor made me be there. So I'm there for 3 hours. What do? I go out to the car, turn on the air conditioning, fire up my little CRM on the phone. Hey, it's Pablo. I dial for dollars, man. Again, what am I being paid for here, right? So that's my highest income activity, is making phone calls and digging through that database.
Yep.
Yeah, $25 a month. If they send a newsletter as well, maybe you pay a little bit more. And I'm sure there's database programs, like really just do a Google search, you guys. CRM program for realtors, a database for realtors. You're going to get hundreds of ads and suggestions, and everywhere you browse now, you're going to get CRM stuff. In fact, just the fact that we're talking about it on this, I'm probably going to get ads now for CRMs because everybody's listening these days. But Realty Juggler, that's a good one too. I mean, I've heard of a lot of these great systems. Like I said earlier, though, like the Excel or whatever, the best one is the one that you're going to use. So if you just import your database and let it sit there, it's going to return as much as effort you put into it.
Yep. The key is use. Got to use it, guys.
Yeah. Make those calls. Okay. Any last minute questions? We are right at the top of the hour here. Be respectful of everybody's time. And if not, I just want to thank Jamil for coming on here today, man. That was really informative. I wrote down a lot of notes here. There's some really good stuff, guys, like treating your business as a business. What a concept, right? What other business doesn't have a database for their clients? Does your dentist just kind of go, well, I wonder who our clients are. I should look on my phone here and scroll through and see if I can find Jamil. No, like treat your business like a business. Focus on your income producing activities and have a VA of some sort to do some of your income servicing activities. 8x8 and 33. So remember that, guys. That was brilliant information. Thank you, Jamil, for coming on today. This will be available to people. I know normally we don't record these, but we will make this one available. It will be on the Agent Upgrade Facebook page. It'll be on the Agent Upgrade YouTube page. And I'm sure Jamil will put it on the CEO Business Mastery page. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Did I get that right? And we'll make sure that you guys have access to this so you can learn from it in the future. Have an awesome week, everybody. Thanks, Jamil.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.